Heidi ho, greetings, tally ho. What other ways do we say hello, Derek?
Heidi ho, is that what we're going to lead the show with?
Yeah. Hello, Heidi ho.
Oh, God. Tally ho is
we're both
like
wearing like our, I don't know, what, like
my quarter zip.
we're kind of matching here in our little outfits.
Tally
today.
ho's like fox hunting, isn't it? Like if you see the fox, tally ho to alert the other hunters. I think that's correct.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a fox?
Yes, I have seen a fox before.
They're not very big, right?
No.
They're little guys?
Yeah, they're small.
I kind of like foxes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. They're actually really mischievous.
Sly?
Yeah. Whereas
course.
you think of, foxes in cartoons and stuff like that, they've not been categorized that way, I don't feel like.
What cartoon has a fox?
Fox and the Hound, Disney?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Did they get along? The fox and the hound?
Well, eventually. Yeah, there was a conflict in their relationship, and then there was this grizzly bear that was on the loose, and then the fox ended up saving the hound, and then they became friends again. The hunter was a bad guy in Fox and Hound. Hunter was mean. He was trying to shoot everything.
Did the hunter own the hound?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Okay, so the hound is helping.
Yeah, we have like the greatest weekend of NFL football in maybe history, certainly in my lifetime, to talk about. So let's not.
Do you
spend
remember,
too
by the
much
way,
time
this
on Fox
is
and Hound.
How Are You? My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. It is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named charitably award-winning Query and Schultz program here on ISC Sports Network. It is Art Donovan, episode number 70 to get to today. And I recall, Derek, I don't know, midway through our radio show together. By the way, the show is presented by Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lending, mortgage in a snap.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Mine was really
I went
good.
lefty.
So I went lefty-righty.
Okay. Well, it's not a competition, but whatever helps you sleep at night.
Two better than one. Mm-hmm. Do you remember we did the radio show, and there was some night, I don't remember what it was,
Baseball.
and you're like, this is the greatest night in the history of baseball. And I'm like,
I did say that,
And I'm like, nobody a year from now will remember anything about it.
2011. It was the final night of the regular season, and if I remember right, the Yankees had to lose to the Orioles and the Rays had to beat the Red Sox in order for the Rays to get in over Boston. And I think both games went into extras. The Orioles rallied to beat the Yankees, and the Rays, Evan Longoria, had a walk-off hit, which at that time was one of the biggest wins in Rays history. Now they've had a lot of success since then. And they went to a World Series prior to that. But, yeah, that's the night that we were talking about.
And would you agree that over time it was like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I probably overrated it a little bit, but it's still something memorable, especially for baseball where there's just no, Jake, unlike the NFL, and I don't mean this, I love baseball. There is nothing that gets everybody together than something like we saw Sunday night with the Bills and Chiefs, where literally everyone is watching that game.
In the NFL, I mean, the advantage the NFL has is twofold. Number one, the NFL's signature prime games like this are happening when to most of the country it's 20 degrees outside, people are inside.
Yeah, true.
It's on a Sunday. But the NFL is set up for parity and for teams to be evenly matched, and that's exactly what you saw once again on display. And it was scintillating stuff. There's no doubt about it. We now know the four that are set, the final four, if you will. In the NFL, you've got the Rams, you've got the Niners, and then, of course, you have the Chiefs and the Bengals, who are kind of the surprise of all of it. So there's a lot to talk about, and let's simply begin with this. The Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, in the last, after the 2-minute warning, Patrick Mahomes threw for more yardage than Carson Wentz did in 5 games this year.
Yeah, in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was a display of elite quarterback-isms, quarterbacking, whatever it is, with Allen and Mahomes, and maybe a preview, Jake, of a rivalry that we're going to see in the AFC. I think you have to include Joe Burrow in that, maybe even Justin Herbert, who's obviously in the same division as Mahomes. But it was incredible to sit back and just not really have a rooting. I don't know about you. I didn't care who won the game.
Man,
maybe part of me was kind of pulling for Buffalo, I guess, for their fans.
I was for Buffalo just because I just – that was to me okay. Couple of things here, Derek. I really like Josh Allen, and I just like his story from the time that I didn't know him in high school. But, Josh Allen is a guy that has arrived before our very eyes. And there have been times where he has shown some ability and then stepped back a little bit. So you wondered if, in fact, he was able to arrive onto a stage where this is, in fact, who he is. And I think now we can say that.
Oh, yeah. No question.
I mean,
9 tuds, no picks.
That game last night, multiple times he had to go down the field, and you're like, well, he can't do it again, can he? And extending plays with his legs and knowing when to run and making he seemingly made the right decision every time. He has arm talent, as they say. But what I'm curious about is, if you recall, Derek, I had made mention a handful of years ago that I felt like we were reaching an expiration date on the universal love for Steph Curry, and that eventually people were going to get a fatigue factor. Now, Curry's had a nice bounce back from a very short period where people were fatigued. Patrick Mahomes is an extremely likable player. The Chiefs as an organization, people seem to forget, have a bunch of really bad guys and seemingly have no morals. If you can play, they're going to let you play. They've had several indiscretions.
Sure. Hill, Frank Clark,
Tyreek Hill being
guys like that.
He should be in prison, right? Total scumbag, but a great player. But Patrick Mahomes is not one of those guys. He's seemingly, his brother's annoying, but Patrick Mahomes is a very likable guy. But I felt like yesterday, the Buffalo-Kansas City game, people love Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs because their rise in the AFC in particular spared us Tom Brady and the Patriots for the 10,000th time, right? I mean, it was the same thing. And I realized Brady went to Tampa. We know what happened. But now I feel like Buffalo and Josh Allen are going to be seen as the hope that eventually gets us past constantly hearing about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And that the Mahomes, the window, the fatigue factor with the Chiefs was accelerated last night by them again pulling the rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah, I agree that we're eventually going to get really tired of Kansas City being in the AFC Championship game every year and potentially being in another Super Bowl, which would be, 3 out of the last 4 years
that
they've been in it. Well, actually, wait, three straight, right?
Well, they beat San Francisco.
19, 20, 21. Yeah. So it'll be 3 straight Super Bowls that they've
San
been
Francisco.
In. And one in 19, 20 they were in it and lost to Tampa, and then this year they'd be in it again. So
you're saying if this year, yes.
Four straight AFC Championship games, though, because they lost to Tom Brady and the Patriots in 18, and that was kind of their arrival in Mahomes' first year. I agree that fatigue is going to happen. I don't think it's here yet. I don't think people were upset that the Chiefs won. I think people were upset with the NFL overtime rule, which we can get into coming up a little bit later. But I just don't know, Jake, how you could be disappointed in what you saw last night. And yes, the defenses were completely gassed, and yes, Hill and Kelsey and the receivers were running wide open on each side, but both of those quarterbacks were just throwing darts, man.
Well, the area to me where where Buffalo lost the game, I know a lot's going to be made out of the fact Josh Allen leads them down, they score with 13 seconds left, and you feel like it's over. And people were saying, well, why did they squib kick it?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you, I should say, squib kick it?
Let time run off, yeah.
Aside from that, the game was lost when Buffalo, inexplicably, knowing that Patrick Mahomes is the kind of guy that can make 2 throws and get you into field goal range. I know he's starting on the 25. They gave him midfield.
Yeah.
They basically just said, we're going to play 20 yards off the ball and let you make one pass and pick up 15 yards like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you're within fairly easy striking distance with Travis Kelsey falls out of bed for 14-yard receptions, right? What are you doing? They just gave him field goal range.
I think there's a big difference between doing what the Bills defense did and doing what Arians and Tampa did, where they call a blitz, which I guess I don't really know what you're doing there. And there was a miscommunication and the broken play that led to the cup reception and the game winner. And the Bills just playing all the way off. Because I agree. I don't even think you wanted them to get the ball to midfield and have a chance at a Hail Mary and win it outright right there. But, Jake, I just think that they were so gassed defensively that they just didn't want to get beat on the big play. And they figured if the worst-case scenario here is we tie and go to overtime, as opposed to having a broken play, and God forbid you give up a 75-yard touchdown in that situation. But the squib kick, I think they were just worried about having a returnable ball.
Yeah, but I mean...
Yeah, the chances, right? And 13 seconds? I mean, your win probability at that point has to be well above 90.
Did you bring an extra Chateau Kitchen?
Even with Mahomes. Yeah, I guess we did have an extra one, because there's still a milk stain on that one.
On this one, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Slide
you want that
one
one
in.
instead?
Yeah, I don't
Because there's still some milk on this one.
I don't want the milk stain.
It doesn't smell as bad now. Because I Febrezed it, but it's still got a little bit of a stain on it.
There we go.
That's a good hat.
It is a good hat.
It's funny though, Jake, because you mentioned the Bills and Chiefs game, and
Speaking of Bills,
you kind of completely forget that Bengals Titans game, which probably was the sloppiest of the 4 games. I don't know, that Niners and Packers was an offensive struggle for sure. But it became kind of an afterthought of the weekend,
right?
Because it was the first game that happened, and then all this other stuff happened since then, and Brady losing and all of that. But it was just an incredible weekend of football.
In terms of Brady and the Bucs and the Rams, the Rams got out to a big lead on Brady, and you think to yourself, I've seen this before, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that how it felt?
Oh, the way that it felt was especially keen to Brady and his comebacks because so much of Tom Brady's success has been other teams self-destructing. I mean, the Rams fumbled 3 times with the lead. 3 times. 3 of them. Their kicker was short from 47 yards. That stuff only happens in Tom Brady's universe. Like, it's actually amazing that we're talking about the Rams winning because I was for sure that they were going to lose just because everything seemed to go against them. But and again, Jake, I think we talked about this last year. This has been a theme on the show. I'm not disputing Tom Brady's greatness. You can make the argument he's the greatest to ever do it. He's an all-time great. He's unbelievable. All the stats, all of that. Every break possible, seemingly, has gone Brady's way along the way. And it is what it is. I don't think that we can take luck out of the equation. You have to sometimes
he retires.
Well,
right
actual luck. Luck is part of sports.
Right.
We want to make it about grit and determination and clutch. So much of it is just luck.
To me, the thing, Derek, if you look at the 4 teams that are left, 2 things that jump out at me. Number 1, 2 of the teams that are left are quarterbacked by guys that they took high in the draft. Mm-hmm. And they zeroed in on them and like, that's the guy that I want. The other 2 teams are quarterbacked by guys that they felt they needed to upgrade at the position, so they made a move to get the guy that they thought could lead them. Jimmy Garoppolo, and we'll see what happens with him in San Francisco, although he may be well on his way to taking them to a 2nd Super Bowl. And then, of course, Matthew Stafford with the Rams, who had the number 1 overall pick on their roster. And they said, no, we need more arm strength than this. And they went out and they got Matthew Stafford. The other thing is these are teams that all have something in common, and that is they can throw the ball, they have dynamic playmakers offensively, and they can rush the passer. Now, certainly in Cincinnati's case, you could say, yeah, but they gave up 9 sacks. 9 times Joe Burrow was sacked, and they still won the game. So don't tell me, Jake, that rushing the passer wins you games because it didn't for Tennessee. True, but Tennessee doesn't have dynamic playmakers offensively and a quarterback that can air it out and get them the ball. The reason I'm saying all this, Derek, the Indianapolis Colts, for a team that everybody said, nobody wants to face the Colts in the postseason, mm-hmm. Chris Ballard has built a team that can't rush the passer to save their life, has 0 big-time playmaking stretch offensive wide receivers, has a quarterback who you can't rely on and is mentally weak, can run the ball really well, which would have been awesome in like 1987, and doesn't have a first-round pick because they overspent to bring in Carson Wentz. They made the decision that was the guy they were going to go put it on. Now, if you need to upgrade the quarterback position, you don't have the capital to be able to go out and get the pieces. My point being, the Colts are oh so close, but oh so incredibly far away. And what we found out this weekend is that guy gets a lot of credit for building a complete roster, but it's a roster whose holes are in the biggest flat-out areas, and the areas of neglect are the areas that other teams that are winning went out and addressed.
Yeah, there are holes that you need to win playoff games.
Right.
You can win, and you can go to Buffalo and win the first week of October with the Colts roster. It's really hard to do that in late January. Do you know who the leading rusher was this weekend of the 4 games?
Josh Allen.
Close. Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
This idea that, running and defense is what went. Not really. Certainly not in this century has that really been the case. Defense, sure. Defense certainly far more than running the ball. And it's nice to have the running component. I'm not saying
defense
that
that can get to the passer.
Yeah, it specifically in that area. And I guess can cover when they absolutely need to cover, because some defenses can at least do that. But you're right. I mean, Rake and I were having the conversation before you arrived this morning about, and I know other people felt this way too. You see Allen and Burrow and Justin Herbert and Mahomes all in the AFC, and you're like, my God. And that's not even mentioning like Lamar Jackson and some of these other players, which you're still behind that as far as quarterback is concerned. Yes, the Colts are going to have to figure it out at quarterback, but they're going to have to figure it out in a lot of other areas. Notably, I hope Chris Ballard's watched this weekend, because the wide receiver play that you got from those 4 games is a whole different stratosphere than what the Colts can bring from a wide receiver standpoint, or a pass catcher standpoint, tight ends too.
Is Michael Pittman Jr. a top 2 or even 3 receiver on how many teams left?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think any of them. How about this? Jack Doyle, who we like from Indianapolis, you're
who I think is going to retire.
Yeah, Doyle to Kelsey, or some of these other players that can do. Kittle, these guys that are just unbelievable. Gronk, these unbelievable. I know Tampa's at home, but these unbelievable playmakers at tight end. You need to have and be dynamic at those spots, and not be dynamic at slot corner, and be dynamic at guard, and be dynamic at defensive tackle. You need to be, unless you're Aaron Donald.
I realize the Colts had Andrew Luck on the roster, so it really is a moot point. But to think that they took Quentin Nelson with Josh Allen sitting there.
Yeah, that's not even worth wasting time on, because it's a whole different set of circumstances.
If they only would have known, right, that he was going to retire.
It's a funny thing to point out. But if you want to point something out, point out that they took Ben Banigou instead of A.J. Brown, or DK Metcalf, or Terry McLaurin, or that one specifically, and Paris Campbell over some of those guys in that draft.
What receivers were available in the Paris Campbell draft? Jefferson, was he there?
A.J. Brown, no, I think he was a year later.
Okay.
Jefferson's in year 2. I think all these other guys are in year 3. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin all were in that draft. McLaurin and Metcalf went after Campbell. Banigou went before A.J. Brown. It went in the second round. It was Banigou, 2 picks later Brown, and then 3 or 4 picks later Campbell is how it went. And then Metcalf went 3rd round, and McLaurin went, I think, 4th round.
Banigou or Okereke that Pat McAfee introduced? That was Banigou, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What all do we have to get to today? We got a lot to get to.
We got a lot to touch on. People upset about the NFL. Do not touch me. Overtime rules.
Said touch on.
Touch on, like, as far as topics are concerned, not physically touch.
Okay.
NFL overtime rules I want to get into, because I think there's a lot to discuss there. It's almost like Sunday night was a makeup for 3 years ago, where you knew in that was a great game between the Chiefs and Patriots in the AFC Championship. You knew the winner of that coin flip, whoever was going to get the ball last, was going to score and win.
Right.
And that's what you knew last night, just with the way the quarterbacks are playing and how the defenses were. So solutions to that problem. Indiana has this epic win to knock off Purdue, and they follow it up with about the worst performance possible against a talented but underachieving Michigan team.
I got a message for Indiana fans. They're not going to want to hear it about that.
Oh, boy. I don't know if I'm going to want to hear it. Pacers wrapping up a Western swing, banged up. We'll talk about that as well. And Jake always enjoys this. Corey and Schultz is really important for us, not only Central Indiana sports. We want to tell you about animal escapes. There was a crash on a highway in PA involving 100 monkeys, 3 of them on the loose. They said that they captured all 3. Turns out 1 is still on the lam. So we'll have the latest on a monkey escape in Pennsylvania.
Didn't they shoot and kill 2 of them?
Are you going to ruin the story? I was planning to do a whole segment on that.
You said 1's on the loose. We haven't gotten to that, but I think they...
Okay, well, if you're going to blow up the whole tease, then I guess we won't talk about the monkey escape.
It's not blowing the tease. You're talking about we haven't gotten to the 1 on the loose. But I want to know what they did to the 2 that they captured.
Like, somebody hired you to do a new radio show, and you still, like, don't know how to tease or do anything. It's just amazing to me.
Again, you mentioned...
Like, it's because people think you're good looking, or you just have connections?
Well, that's...
Like you and Shannon and having that? I mean, I don't know... I don't know how it's that you got hired for that.
I'm confused by all of this.
Well, your life partner is the daughter of one of the most prominent figures in Indiana Pacers history.
Okay.
So I thought maybe that was a leg up for you to get hired again for this radio job? Because clearly it's not your ability to tease. That's my point.
Okay. Looks.
Well, yeah, I mentioned that as well. Yeah, so
Blue eyes?
genetic lottery, I guess, because he's tall, and we've done some test groups that say that he's handsome, not as handsome as me, but older women find you attractive. I'm more popular with younger 20s women.
What test group said you're more handsome?
This was in the NDE days, so this was back in the radio days. So this is it's not current, but I mean, I've aged like a fine wine. This was from 3 or 4 years ago. 2018, okay. I think we did it. Mm-hmm.
And the research said
50 people. There were 35 females, 15 male. All 15 of the males were IndyCar fans, so you scored off the charts with the men that were IndyCar fans, and I scored off the charts with the 35 women.
Okay.
Yeah, most of them 20 to 29 in that age. That's kind of the happy range.
Were they into the My Little Pony stuff?
No, they were just into the Schultz stuff.
Okay.
That's what they were into on this show.
Okay.
So if you're watching, hi, Derek at QuarionSchultz.com. I'm happily married and all of that, but I do like the attention. So It just, the cross that I bear.
What about the hat backwards? Do they like that?
No, it's just kind of sad and depressing to see you do that.
Hello, fellow kids.
NFL overtime rules. Good, bad, solutions. We don't need a solution. We'll talk about that when we return. It's Corey and Schultz just getting started here on ISC Sports Network.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Are we back here? What are you doing?
Yeah, welcome back.
I just looked up and I saw the monitor, and you're just staring at the camera.
Well,
like
I was waiting. I was
Brady.
trying to hear. It's soundproof glass, or at least it's supposed to be. That's over here, but I have really keen hearing, so I thought I could hear our intro music.
How'd that work out for you?
Coming in, and well, you were like slurping soda or whatever you've got over there. Gross. And so that was cluttering my auditory ability.
Okay.
This portion of the Corey and Schultz brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens. ChateauKitchens.com, home and remodeling. They are the best at what they do, not only with remodeling, but also cabinetry.
Fat again? I look fat again.
Beautiful, beautiful cabinets from Chateau Kitchens that they ordered for our kitchen from 2018. I think it's been 3 years. It might have been 2019 that we got our kitchen redone with Chateau Kitchens. They're now working on our guest bathroom upstairs, and had to order a cabinet for that, just for the sink. But it's got a laundry chute because we've got a 100-year-old house.
Laundry chute's fun,
They put a little like trap door thing in there, so you can use it as a laundry chute. It's going to be big boy's bathroom.
Can the kid? You got to be careful. He's going to want to ride the laundry
he's
chute.
huge. He's like Quentin Nelson's size already, so he's not going to fall in that laundry chute. He's good. Yeah, he's a big guy. I haven't decided yet if he's going to play football or be a 6'10" NBA center. But
This is your son?
oh yeah.
Definitively?
Yes.
Okay.
He's going to be my wife is much more of an athlete than I am. So that's going to, I think, help him.
What sports did she play?
She was a state champion field hockey player.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
We've talked about that.
What high school?
Before. Windsor High School in Vermont.
In Canada?
Basically, yeah, pretty much. I mean, like 2 hours south of Canada, yeah.
How many field hockey teams were there in the state of
Well, that's the
Vermont?
thing. And she gets defensive about that, but there weren't a lot. You know, Vermont is very it's the least populous state, I think.
No, Wyoming.
I think Wyoming has the lowest population density. I think Vermont has the fewest amount of people in it.
We'll look it up.
Okay.
You want Vermont or Wyoming?
I thought that Wyoming was the least, like, per square mile, there is the fewest amount of people.
Right.
But Vermont has the least amount of people. I mean, you got to think of the landmass, too. I mean, Vermont is, what, 1/10 the size of Wyoming?
Correct on that. Wyoming population. Are you ready?
500,000.
Is that your guess?
Yep.
I got to set up the Wi-Fi in here. Hang on. Everything's blocked. What were we going to say about the overtime rules?
Oh, we were going to, well, first let me hit the Chateau Kitchens. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook if you want to see some of their before and after pictures. Steven and his crew do a great job for you, and they've been a sponsor with us now for almost a full year. They came on late winter, early spring of 2021, and they've been great to watch.
578,000 people in Wyoming.
Wow, so I almost hit it on the head.
645 in Vermont.
645,000 people in Vermont? Wow. So you were right. Oh, that's rare. But yeah, she's state champion field hockey player, and so I don't think my kid's going to play field hockey because I don't think people in Indiana know what field hockey is. But
it's basically, is it like lacrosse?
Similar. Ball stays on the ground, though, for the most part. Whereas lacrosse, you toss it to one another and all of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot of controversy, for lack of a better phrase. There were a lot of people frustrated by the fact that you had this incredible finish between Kansas City and Buffalo, and I think a lot of people's their heart kind of went out to Buffalo because the Bills, just kept answering the bell, and it was really captivating. And then you get into overtime, and they call the coin flip, and Buffalo calls it, and Kansas City wins the coin toss, and they get the ball, and they go right down, they score, and the game's over. To me, Derek, the compromise would be this, and maybe you only do it in the postseason. Each team, simply put, each team is guaranteed at least one possession. So if Team A scores a field goal or a touchdown, either one, Team B gets a chance to at the very least match and force then, a
So no clock.
sudden death.
Just each team, overtime period, no clock. Kind of like college, one possession for each team.
Well, okay. How about this?
No, I actually don't dislike that idea.
The first team to score twice wins the game unless the second score trumps the first score.
Here's what I would do. I would do just a 10-minute extra quarter.
No, I get that, but then at 10 minutes, what do you take a 5-minute break?
Then it becomes
sudden death.
It has to go. Yeah, this is only for the playoffs, and then it becomes sudden death after that. I even saw somebody bring this up. Why not just resume wherever you were in regulation for the overtime? So if, let's say I have the ball on the Kansas City 40 and I'm Buffalo and time runs out in regulation, I just resume from there for overtime, and that's the 10-minute period. Kind of like exactly how you would do for like a basketball game for the most part. Just resume exactly where you are. I don't know if there is a great solution. I do think that the overtime rule is better than it used to be.
It is.
Sudden death.
All I'm saying is this, Derek. If the first team scores a touchdown, the other team gets an opportunity. Because as it is right now, if the first team scores a field goal, the other team still gets a chance to match or surpass that. If the first team scores a touchdown, the second team then has a chance to score a touchdown and match them, or score a touchdown, go for two to win it, and win the game.
Yeah.
If Buffalo gets the ball, scores a touchdown, and it's now 7-7 in the overtime, the next score wins it.
But even in that, and this is why there's no perfect solution, even with that, you still have to determine who's going to have the ball first, which is an advantage. It's always an advantage to have the ball first.
Correct.
So there's really not a lot I don't think that you can do to make it a completely level playing field, but I do think that is a solution to make it more level. I just hate that after such a great game, and I'm kind of one of these people too, Jake. Some people say this about me, that I complain. After a game like that, my first feeling is, wow, I'm going to remember that game for a long time. That was amazing to watch, as opposed to, oh, God, why does the NFL have it? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't
Right.
feel like being negative after such an amazing game and an amazing weekend of football. For once, where I usually feel like being negative. I didn't feel like that on Sunday night.
You felt positive?
Yeah, because it was such a great game.
It was great.
Now, if I was a Bills fan, I probably wouldn't feel that positive.
I felt for Josh Allen when they showed him and he was just sitting on the bench, just staring.
Well, he never touched the ball again. I mean, 13 seconds left, you just put your team ahead, and then you don't touch the ball again. I can understand why people have a problem with that. So either your solution where you guarantee both. I think with a 10-minute timed overtime, you pretty much guarantee a possession for each team because it'd be very rare where somebody was just going to run off 10 minutes on a scoring drive and then win with like a buzzer-beating field goal or buzzer-beating touchdown.
I have a problem with the fact that anytime that Tyreek Hill does something and it's celebrated and everybody talks about how wonderful he is, like on the broadcast and everything else, and people just completely forget the totally disgusting allegations of him of abusing his significant other and his infant child.
Yeah, and that's sports.
It shouldn't be that way, though. He's a scumbag.
I don't disagree.
He's lucky to be walking as a free man. And I think there are a lot of people that if they were locked in a room with him would be pleased if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, there are a lot of, Tyreek Hill's not the only one that's been the case.
Well,
with
but still, I mean, it doesn't
over the
make
years. No, I agree with you that, we celebrate these guys.
And there seem to be, it seems that there are a lot more of those in Kansas City than anywhere else.
You just have to remember that there's a difference between, and this is true just for life in general, what you see from public figures and then who they are behind closed doors. Right. There's always a lot of times. I shouldn't say always because sometimes there's not, but a lot of times there's a difference.
Right.
But kind of wrapping up our conversation about divisional weekend. You were talking about takeaways for the Colts and the roster. What frustrated me, Jake, is that you see a team like San Francisco who essentially had to hide their quarterback. Late in that game against Green Bay, they were like, "Oh my God, should we do anything with Garoppolo here? Because we don't want him to screw up." He's along for the ride for them. And I saw a stat that I think he has 9, maybe not 9, 6 playoff wins where he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass, which is insane to me.
But hey,
I don't know if that's right.
If it's a recipe that's working, right?
I guess, yeah. But I just keep going back to that's why the loss in Jacksonville was so bad because, look, the Colts could have easily gone out like the Steelers went out or the Eagles went out. Colts could have gotten their doors blown off in Cincinnati or whatever. But you just didn't even give yourself a chance to have this run like San Francisco has had. And look, San Francisco's got players at positions that matter that the Colts don't. I get it. I don't want people to be like, well, Schultz is saying that if they would have gotten in, they'd be in the champ. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you had a lottery ticket there, and you ended up ripping it up before you could even see the ping pong balls.
Right. That's fair.
Because this was always – don't you agree? This was always going to be a wide-open year where the Packers were good. They weren't that good. Tampa Bay was good. They weren't that good.
That's fair.
The Titans –
Kansas City and Buffalo we knew were good, right?
I'm telling you, and I'm not a gambling man, Bengals over Titans was the lock of the century. Whoever Tennessee was going to play,
I'm curious
they
to
were
see.
going to lose.
I'm curious to see now that the Bengals have arrived. Are the Bengals the Bills where they broke through and now they're going to be here for a while, or the Bengals the Cleveland Browns, where a year from now you go, what happened to the Bengals?
Yeah, no, I think it's the former.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Now,
Chase and Burrow.
you talk about
crazy.
You talk about cashing a lottery ticket before it was really there, whatever else, getting false expectations, false hopes. Let's segue to Indiana basketball. Okay. I grew up a rabid Indiana basketball fan. Huge. People that grew up around me will tell you that they hated Indiana because of me. I was that guy. And I lived and died with every play for Indiana. Indiana basketball, while I applaud and I enjoy a lot of the things that they are doing, and I think Mike Woodson, you can't help but pull for him and want him to do well. When Indiana beat Purdue, Derek, Indiana fans started jumping up and down. Hooray, court rush, we're back. We're elite again. Listen, Indiana fans need to finally realize that sometimes you just got to let things breathe and play out organically. I understand the enthusiasm and the necessity and the quench and the thirst of wanting to get that high again. That feeling of that March day in '87 of Ricky Callaway just put us into the Final Four and hopes and expectation and the A.J. Moye block. And listen, anytime any player commits to Indiana, whether it's a graduate transfer or a kid, a 5-star recruit, Hoosiers, here we go. Let's go. Bring it on. Final Fours. Xavier Johnson. 1 minute you are talking to everybody about how he is the answer, and then the next minute you realize he's just not Josh Newkirk or another guy, and there's a reason why he was a point guard on a 15-win team that decided to transfer. Right?
I don't think. I mean, Xavier Johnson actually was probably their best player.
Been okay.
Yesterday.
Christian Lander, 5-star recruit.
yeah.
We're only going to have him for 1 year, and then he's gone to the NBA. He's a lottery pick. He's going to be the number 10 pick in the draft. NBADraft.com says he's number 5 in the country. Can't play. Can't play. Archie Miller convinced him to reclassify and come out early, and people say, well, you got to keep in mind he's still young. He can't play.
Well, at least not here.
He can't play.
Apparently.
He
At
can't
least
play.
not for a Mike Woodson team.
He ain't going to play at Indiana. The fact he's still on the roster is a miracle, okay? But he can't play. He was overrated. He's not a 5-star recruit. Somebody labeled him a 5-star recruit, so I guess he is one. He doesn't have the skill set. He can't see the floor. Indiana beats Purdue. Hooray, we're back. Here we go. Let's go. Hoosiers. Okay, great. That means something if you move forward with it. A team 1 game over 500 that's been a disappointment all year came into Assembly Hall and made an absolute laughingstock of this group right here.
Yeah.
A laughingstock of them. Indiana did what this
We need to tape that.
what this license plate just did. Just completely folded and fell, right?
Yeah. There we go.
I mean, right here, every one of these guys, they sit around and too much time at Kilroy's?
Yeah. This is
much-
me. Race Thompson is me watching IU yesterday.
Too much time reading Twitter about people like sending them memes and
Jake,
gifs of
I
how
just
great
think,
they are?
Look, I just think it happens. Days like Sunday.
Indiana
happen.
fans, quit jumping up and down over every single thing and let stuff organically breathe. Let it happen
It was-
naturally.
Jake, it was catharsis on Thursday night. 9 games.
It was great.
And
It was
6
great.
years. 6 years is
It was
a long
great.
time.
Quit hanging a freaking banner
They
for
went.
it.
Look, there's always going to be the element of that fan base that is overboard. But for Indiana fans and celebrating Thursday night and rushing the floor and all of that, I had no problem with it. Purdue had dominated them for
I get
6
it.
years.
Okay, sure, I get
Your
it.
most hated rival.
But it doesn't mean anything when you turn around and you get your
Look,
ass
in
kicked
yes.
by a team that
in
isn't
the
even
scope
probably
of
going
this
to make the
season.
tournament.
In the scope of this season, you're right. I do think that it was important for Indiana to end that streak, and they did. And that should be celebrated. But to follow it up against a Michigan team that's been underachieving all year long, I mean, pound for pound, Michigan's more talented than Indiana. Dickinson and they have a lot of talent on that team, but they got outclassed. IU was down 14 points essentially the entire game. And to not have
by 18?
the energy, and it's not a great roster. And in Mike Woodson's defense, you kind of had to put – they have talent. I just think that it's hard because you have too many guys that have clear limitations. Like Kopp and Stewart are both shooters, but that's all they can really do.
Right.
Finney is a defender, but that's all he can outside of that fluky performance. And good for Rob Finney, but come on. I mean, Thursday night was a huge fluke compared to who he's been throughout his career. He's a defensive player. That's it. And I think finding the right lineups when you've got a guy like Galloway. You've got a guy like Trace Jackson-Davis, who is a great athlete, but he goes up against Zach Edey and he's given up half a foot, or against Dickinson and he's given up 30, 40 pounds. It's tough for him.
I talked to people who were part of Christian Lander's playing in Evansville. And I said, why is he not seeing the floor in Bloomington? And they said, he's a wonderful kid, works hard, does what you ask him to do. He's not very talented. It's like a total mystery to people that were around him on a day-to-day how he became this ballyhooed recruit and how Archie Miller sold him on coming there and declassifying. And they're like, he not only was he not ready, there was no sign or indication that he was ever going to be.
Yeah, again, it happens. But I think really –
But it's why you temper it yourself when every player that commits, it's like, oh, man, this number 9, Hunter Perea. I mean, one person told me he's going to be George McGinnis Part 2. He'll play 20 games and be a lottery pick. That guy sucked. He couldn't catch a basketball.
He couldn't play.
He was terrible.
Yeah. And then there are other guys that kind of got in their own way, Jeremy Hollowell, and there have been other guys that had some off-court problems maybe and just got in their own way a little bit, or it got in their head. Recruiting is not an exact science, but I think part of it too is that whether Indiana wants to admit this or not, Xavier Johnson's become probably their second most relied upon player, just because they don't look. He plays out of control and at times and a speed different than everybody else, but he at least is aggressive and always brings energy. And some of Indiana's players don't bring that, so they have to find the right combination of players. I think this was always going to be a team that had kind of a hard cap on their ceiling, but Indiana is talented enough to be an NCAA tournament team. And the frustration that stems from Sunday is that you really could build towards putting Indiana safely in the field, like in the 8-9 seed range.
Right. I thought they'd be a 6.
And here they are still on the periphery. They're on the bubble.
Can't get out of their own
and
way.
It looks like they're going to stay on the bubble
Can't
the whole
get out
year
of their own way.
because their non-conference strength of schedule is a complete joke.
What else?
Let's get to love that play while we're on the topic of Indiana, and a happy moment, because Rob Finney's night in general, but specifically the game-winning shot where Purdue comes all the way back, they take the lead, and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen here for Indiana? And they essentially run a – Finney missed a wide-open 3 like 10 seconds before that.
Right.
And they essentially run a similar play for Finney again, and he gets free on the wing and knocks down a big shot. That'll
by the way,
always be remembered.
Love that play, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number. That's 353-2141. Love-HVAC.com, at Love Heat Indy on Twitter. Derek, when it comes to the Rob Finney, like back-to-back three-point attempts, I feel like Mike Woodson gets flexibility to design. Credit Mike Woodson for creating the confidence to Rob Finney to be able to take that shot a second time or the first time, and kind of waking up Rob Finney and bringing in him by Finney's own admission a belief of Woodson believing in him and jump-starting him. But when you draw up a play for Rob Finney and he misses that 3 and you go right back to him, that is a coach that is equally confident, and not only confident but knows that he can come up with those things, and he has more leeway with the fan base than an R.G. Miller or even a Tom Crean because he's an Indiana guy. And I think what you saw there was Woodson knowing he had that flexibility to give a guy a second look and a second chance, because even though Rob Finney by design maybe is not a shooter, shooter's got to keep shooting to get the ball to drop. And I just think it worked out well for both. Finney because of the belief that Woodson put in him, and Woodson going to the belief that like the fan base gives to him as well to create that.
What I like about it from the Woodson perspective, what I like about it is that it's a clear understanding from a guy how to be a college head coach compared to a pro head coach.
Correct.
Because you wouldn't really do that with a 30-year-old where you're coddling him around like, I believe in you, pal. Like, I know you can make this shot. But at the end of the day, these are grown kids, right? But Rob Finney's, 21 years old?
Yeah.
I mean, you're still kind of a kid at that point. Sometimes you need that. You get down on yourself. And I think for a lot of the struggles the past 3+ years for Finney has been in his head. He has some talent. It's just you have to be confident in yourself. So I love that he believed in him and he got the game ball afterwards. I saw the video in the Indiana locker room. I thought it was terrific.
And Mike Durr played well as well. That they gave him the game ball to.
And that's a guy that wants to play more. And the minutes haven't always been there for him, but to shine when you're asked to shine is great. And I think regardless of what happens for Indiana this year, I'm very encouraged by what we've seen from Mike Woodson so far in year one. It's a results business. You're going to have to win and get Indiana back in the tournament regularly. But I think so far so good on that side of things.
Did you like that song Shine by Collective Soul?
Yeah.
Oh.
Runaway train.
That's
coming right down the road.
No, Runaway Train is Soul Asylum.
That was the weird thing because
Collective
the
Soul
song was all about a runaway train. It didn't have anything about shine.
Let your light shine down. Whoa.
I'm not familiar with that one.
That's Shine by Collective Soul. Okay. Soul Asylum is Runaway Train.
Soul Asylum was That's the World I Know. Yes, that's the world I know.
No, that's
I remember that
also one. Collective Soul, right?
I don't think that's right. We'll look that up during. You usually get these ones wrong.
Okay.
When we do this on the show, we'll look that up during the break and try to correct all those errors. Segment 3. Pacers banged up. They're ending a Western Road swing tonight. We're taping this right now on Monday. Trade deadline approaching though.
Watch the game at Yats.
So we'll talk about that. Watch the game at Yats. Oh, because they're playing New Orleans. Yeah. Cajun style. I get it. Yeah. We'll get that in post, Greg. We'll grab that in post. We'll just chop that off. All right. 3, 2, 1. And the Pacers ending a Western swing tonight. Jake, you know what? They can play that game at Yats or watch that game at Yats.
Why at Yats?
Because it's New Orleans and Pelicans.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, see?
Or they could just
Cajun
go to the
style
Jazz
food.
Kitchen.
You know what? I've never been in. I've always wanted to go. I've never been in Jazz Kitchen.
Isn't there another place in town called the New Orleans House?
I think a lot of the other New Orleans themed ones have gone away. Like Bourbon Street, that used to be on the corner right there by the canal. That went away. We used to love Bourbon Street.
Well, I got news for you. One time I was in Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
We went in there, and Shannon went to use the restroom and came out and was like, I think we should leave. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, we honestly, we should go. What are you talking about? She went into the restroom, and someone had an accident, and so she had to stand while the person cleaning finished up, and then she watched, and the person cleaning went in and got immediately on the grill.
Well, washed his hands, I would think, right?
No. Went straight from cleaning and then saw Shannon like, oh, I'm sorry, and then she kept an eye and went right in on the grill.
That is troubling. that is a troubling.
I've always wondered if that's why they're not around anymore.
Yeah, it's a troubling one. One morning I woke up in the Coke lot on race day, and I couldn't use the portalette because the accumulation of waste had gone over the rim of the portalette. So there was no room for it to there was no more room at the end, if you will. There was nothing else that you could put in the bowl. Because it's like at home when your garbage gets to the point where you have to staple like a banana peel to the top of it.
Yeah, no, we are aware of what you're saying.
It was a little too full.
Okay. That's
just blue liquid everywhere. It turned kind of brown, or green, excuse me. Because I think, isn't brown and blue? Isn't that green? Or is that yellow and blue? I don't remember. We've gone off track. We'll get all of this in post, so this isn't even going to see the light of day. We'll come back, talk some Pacers, more football as well. It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Hopefully you'll stick around.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
WGU.edu/Indiana. Get a degree on your own time. And it's funny because WGU Indiana's been around since well before the pandemic, but I think especially in the years post-pandemic, or I guess I shouldn't say post-pandemic, I guess it's still going on, but in the months and years since, we've kind of learned, hey, I can do a lot of things on my own time. I can work from home on my own time, have the kids around. I can study for a test, take an exam, get a certification. You could do all of that at WGU. wgu.edu/Indiana and get a degree that really matters for you, that can advance your career. WGU Indiana, where ambition never rests, and they have been with us literally since day one of the relaunch of this show.
It is great, Derek. 700,000 people in the state of Indiana have college credits out there that they have yet to complete, and they just assume maybe that those classes expired. They do not. WGU is an excellent way for you to go back and finish that degree left on the table, or just start if you've been thinking about it. I mean, what a great way to do it, as you mentioned, with that flexibility. Ambition indeed never rests, so the time is now to get that degree.
Get to our Sage Move of the Week while we're on the talk of WGU Indiana, and I just think that I've always appreciated this about teams, even when they fail, and there have been cases where teams have failed. The 2015 Colts are a good example of this. The Rams pushed all their chips in, and they said, this is our window, this is the team, we're going to go for it here. They traded a whole cachet of picks and talent to get Matthew Stafford. They traded a couple draft picks to get Von Miller. Adding Odell Beckham and everybody else that has added to this all-star team, the Jalen Ramsey deal from a couple of years ago. And here they are in an unprecedented situation, and a situation that puts them squarely in the catbird seat, because if they win 2 home games, they're champions.
Yeah.
And no team has ever had that. You had Tampa, of course, last year playing a Super Bowl in Tampa, but you've never had a conference championship game at home into a Super Bowl.
Their sage move, they had a couple of them. They had the number 1 overall pick in the draft, who was a kid that was from their state of California, and Jared Goff, and they move him for Matthew Stafford. In addition to that, they knew they had a defense, but the Rams were smart enough to know there are 2 things that win in this league: passing the ball and attacking other teams' passers and wreaking havoc defensively. And the Rams are set up towards the winning recipe and the winning blueprint in 2022 in the NFL more than any team in football. And that's because of the way they have methodically gone about building this roster.
And good for Stafford. You know, what frustrates me about sports sometimes is that we just kind of buy into game results as, well, this means A and this means B, when there's always nuance involved with that. You can imagine if the Rams blew a 27-3 lead, and let's say that game goes into overtime and Tampa ends up winning in overtime. It's all about, oh my God, Tom Brady did it again and Stafford choked, when in reality, neither of those things were really true. The letdown for the Rams were all things kind of outside Stafford's control, with the fumbles and the missed short field goal. But for him to, throw a perfect ball like that, yes, it was a broken coverage. I get it. There was a miscommunication between the Bucs. But have that moment to set up the game-winning field goal and have that play as kind of a how you like me now. I think regardless of how it goes from here, we've kind of changed our thinking about Matthew Stafford and his career and just how good he's been. He's just been a really good player for a long time.
No, there's no doubt about it. I still have like a hesitancy of, is he going to make a key mistake late? But
yeah,
he's talented.
He's not on the...
He's a likable guy.
Yeah, he's not on the Mahomes, Allen level, Rodgers level, but he's the tier right below that.
He is.
Did the Colts make a mistake? Or do you think because there are deficiencies in other areas that even with Stafford, they wouldn't be in this kind of position?
My understanding is Chris Ballard wanted no part of Matthew Stafford and thought was sold on the fact Carson Wentz was a better option, and that gives me a lot of question mark about Chris Ballard.
Is that Reich related? Reich talking him into it?
I think Reich is the one that sold Irsay and Ballard on Wentz, but I think that door was not opened for discussion until it had been made obvious that Ballard wanted no part of Stafford.
Because what I always thought or heard about that situation was that they were interested in Stafford, just they weren't going to come close to the asking price.
Well, and that may be the case. But you know what? I mean, so what are you going to get for it? You gave up a 1 and a 3 for Carson Wentz.
And now you're probably, if you want to upgrade, you're probably going to have to give another.
Now
pick,
you're stuck with it.
But somebody brought up a good point. I think this was Verve Jones 007 on Twitter, who's a good Colts Twitter follow. But he had mentioned in watching the game last night, watching Allen and watching Mahomes, and then even watching Burrow, who I think he mentioned, it'd be hard for me to stomach the Colts giving up more draft capital for Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo, because even there, those are upgrades over Carson Wentz. That's not where you need to be.
Look, they spent their allowance already. They already spent their allowance.
It's a tough place to be. Pacers haven't spent anything except, I guess, people's attention and energy on this season so far. They did win 2 games miraculously during that road trip, including one in Golden State, without, I think, any of their starters. But the trade deadline rapidly approaching. They're going to wrap up. We're taping this right now on Monday. They're going to wrap up tonight against New Orleans. But clearly, as the calendar is about to shift to February, there's no real salvaging this season for the Pacers. So it's about the future and what they're going to look like moving forward. Problem for them, Jake, is that a lot of their tradable pieces, or the guys that have been rumored in trades, are banged up. Yeah, you had an ankle issue with Sabonis. You've got this stress reaction, overuse thing, whatever it is, with Miles Turner. And also being very, very cautious with the oft-injured Malcolm Brogdon, who they shut down with that tricky Achilles. So the Pacers, I guess, actually in a good spot, because you kind of want these guys to be shut down because you don't want them to hurt their draft stock here. But also maybe that hurts some of the trade value.
Yeah, listen, they've got a couple pieces that are intriguing now. I mean, Isaiah Jackson's played well for them. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, Goga, now that he's gotten
great.
Duarte's obviously very good, but Goga is starting to look like he gives you some. I think he was written off, and now you're like, maybe he can.
Can you
play.
At least be a rotational player? It looks like he can.
And does he make a Miles Turner or a Sabonis expendable? Not totally replace him, but is he a guy? Is he a big that can now go into rotation if you free some things up?
It's a very low bar, but I'm glad that Goga has maybe at least reached the bar of we can put him on the court and not be embarrassed.
Right.
Where TJ Leaf couldn't even cross over that bar. But I think at the very least, Goga has shown himself maybe to be a rotational player for them, at least in the short term, and play out his rookie deal. Because he looked like a straight cut candidate a couple of months ago when he was getting spin in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, you're right. Jackson is intriguing. I like Jackson.
Yeah.
The rest of them,
I
feel like are guys that they're getting minutes because somebody has to, right?
I agree. Yeah, Sykes and some of these other guys that are a little bit older, they're probably not part of the future plans.
I'm looking at Rick Carlisle. Does he look like he's aged a lot this year? Or is it just because he's cutting his hair
Well, to me, Rick Carlisle will always have the Rick Carlisle, and the mental picture that I have of him will always be the 2004 one, because his first go-around with the Pacers was my first time covering, or I shouldn't say covering. I was an intern gathering audio for WIBC for the post-game locker room, but it was my first experience in a professional locker room and professional press conferences.
Did they call you little guy a lot?
No, nothing like that. They mostly call me sir. It was apparent really early on that I was on a certain trajectory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think anybody knew that I was going to be here. Like 15 years later.
That was before we'd met, so that's understandable.
I'd have a podcast. I mean, I'd be just kind of a beloved public figure in not only Indianapolis sports, but just in culture. But there were some signs early on that this was going to be the path for me, that I was a rising star.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Except when I messed up Reggie Miller's retirement press conference. Then they didn't think that I was a rising star.
That when you forgot to hit the record button?
No, I hit the record button. I plugged into the wrong audio output. So there was nothing except the background noise.
Oh, that's good.
So the box was all the way in the back, and the only thing remember mini disc recorders?
Yeah.
They had a very small window of relevancy from like 2004 to 2006. There was like 18 months where mini discs were a thing. And I went with IBC, and obviously the most important press conference of the year, because it's Reggie's freaking retirement press conference.
Right.
And I get a bunch of background noise. So Kevin, I think, had to call over maybe to 6 or 8 or one of the TV channels who was there, because it was a full room.
I remember when
say we need the audio.
I remember when Kevin called over to us.
Yeah, I believe Kevin's a very mild mannered guy, but he was
DS is what he called you.
He was not happy about that.
DS, and then Derek Schultz.
Why the DS?
Dip. Derek Schultz. That DS Derek Schultz.
What does the DS stand for?
Dip Derek Schultz.
Oh, like dip bleep. Do people still use that term?
They did then. Kind of like mini discs. They had an 18-month relevancy.
There's one term that I use in the car a lot when I'm mad at somebody and I get cut off, and I would never, ever say this in real life.
What's the acronym?
If anybody was in
What's
the car.
the acronym?
CS. I'm really embarrassed about it. I don't know. It's not even part of like my verbiage. It's just in the car, and I get really upset, like heat of the moment. Like that's a word that I say. And my wife is just mortified because she was in the car once when I said it, and she was like, "What did you say?" And I was like, Ash, I'm really sorry. Like I don't mean to use that term. I just if there's one thing that I could change about me, it would be just my temper in the car. I'm not a good person.
Well, it's like when we went to the state fair together.
Person.
We were supposed to go to the state fair.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know why, by the way. Like,
Yeah, you're just like COVID-y and gross and like
the post-COVID, it's like a muscle spasm.
I just hate
you
spending
can't
any
stop
time
coughing.
with you the last couple of weeks.
We were supposed to go to the state fair together, and you were in the car behind me, and I said, just talk our way in, and we'll park on the inside. And then I parked, I went into the tunnel, and I get in the infield, and I, where are you? And then I called you, and you were going 70 miles an hour southbound on Capitol.
Yeah, I was out of there. Yeah, I pulled up to I was in a long line. I pulled up to the parking attendant. We had been in line for 40 minutes, and she waved at me and started leaving. And another parking attendant comes up. I'm like, I don't know why she's waving at me. And they say, sir, we're on shift change right now, so you're going to have to get behind the other line. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I just waited in line. So here's my $5 or whatever it was in my ticket. And she's like, no, sir, you're going to have to turn around and pull into the other line. So I was in my old Honda Civic. So I'm kind of embarrassed that I did this. This is not their fault, right? They probably were told that. Did the drove out of there. And
did you call anybody a CS?
I did not. That probably came out of my mouth. I don't know. And yeah, I got out of there, and we did not go to the fair that night.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. What are we getting to next?
It's too bad because I'm a really good person. I'm just not a,
okay.
not a good person behind the wheel of the car.
Okay.
We've got quick hits to get to. We've got Bite or Bowl Bleep still coming up as well, and Monkey Escape, and the latest on that, as long as Jake doesn't ruin it. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Can't you wait until the break to start texting?
No, I'm doing it now. A lot of work.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
On ISCSportsNetwork.com. Perhaps you're watching us through our YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and do that. It's free to subscribe, and you get alerts, I think, whenever we go live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people have been asking us for shorter videos, because if you go back in the Corey and Schultz YouTube archive, you could find some old – remember when we were required to do, like, skits and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Because our old boss, Rob, who's a great dude, but he was just, like, all about the videos, made us do those. And some of them were really funny, but some of them you could tell that we had completely mailed it in because we knew the Monday meeting was coming, so we had to put something on.
Right.
So I've gone through and kind of deleted some of the lesser ones.
What was the worst one we did?
Ooh. We did one where we had – you remember sales, right, from our old job. We had a summer celebration, and we had to do a video in front of a backdrop and talk about partnering up with us this summer and how we can help your brand at Query and Schultz. And it was like completely like canned and not us at all. I think we might have read from a script or memorized a script for it. And that was on our YouTube channel as our video. And it had like 10 views. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. Yeah. Because nobody cares to see that. But we had some good ones in there. Our Halloween one where I dressed up like Robin and you were supposed to be Batman, but you became a clown.
That was fun.
Yeah, so
was
some of
good.
those.
Yep.
When we went to the Hall of Fame for Marvin Harrison and Tony Dungy, and we did the Chris Farley, David Spade. Don't you remember you told me you loved me,
that's
baby?
right. Yeah, that
we did that video. People like that. So that's what you can expect there. QueryandSchultz.com if you want to check that out. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at JakeQuery and at Schultz975. Let's get to quick hits. A couple of things to touch on here, including Tom Brady and possible retirement. He said Sunday night that it was too soon for him to think about his future and that his emotions were still tied to the heartbreak of the loss.
I was wondering, Derek, about Tom Brady. Look, he still plays at a very high level. There's no doubt about it. But if you're Tom Brady, don't you look at it and you go,
what else can I do?
Yeah, and, Gronk ain't getting any younger.
Yeah.
And there are pieces around, with the dominant play in the AFC, and then, just how many more chances is he really going to get?
I feel like it's very similar to LeBron in that everything Brady does from here in Tampa is gravy because he already got what he wanted, right?
Correct.
He got the
Going
championship,
there,
the
that
vindication.
proved a lot, yes.
Because a lot of people were saying, well, it's a
know
Belichick thing.
Do you want to know an interesting thing? I asked somebody this the other day. Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowls, okay?
Yeah. He's played in 10.
Can you name all of the franchises he has beaten for a Super Bowl?
Yeah. You want to go in order?
Which one do you think most people would have the hardest time coming up with?
Probably the Panthers.
But that was the Janet Jackson Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, that was the wardrobe malfunction.
Okay.
So Rams 01, Packers 03, Eagles 04, Seahawks in whatever year that was. What was that, 14 maybe?
Was Packers one of them?
Falcons, no.
You just said Packers.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Eagles, Philly.
Okay, you said Rams, Eagles, then you said
Panthers.
Packers. Okay, Panthers.
Panthers,
okay.
yeah. Sorry, you're messing me up. Now I have to go back and think. Seahawks, I think, was 14, if I remember right.
Okay.
16 was the Falcons. 18 was the Rams. And then 20 was the Chiefs.
That's right then, yep.
And then they lost 17 to the Eagles, 07 and 11 to the Giants. Those are the 10.
To me, the one that, I have no recollection of was the second Rams Super Bowl.
It was an awful game. It was a really, really bad
I have no
game.
recollection of that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Except for that was the game where Jared Goff looked like he had no idea how to read defense.
It was like 10-6, right? Wasn't that? Rake, what was the final score of that Super Bowl?
I think it was
13-10, 10-6, something like that?
Yeah, it was
or
bad.
13-6. It was really bad. It was a poorly played game. The Falcons one was epic because it was the big comeback.
Right.
The Seahawks one was crazy because you had the Malcolm Butler interception and the play at the end by Seattle.
And the first Rams, you got the Vinatieri field goal.
First 3 were fantastic, yeah, because it all came down to the final drive for the most part. So we've been blessed. We've had a lot of really good Super Bowls. You go back to like Greg Mash or Rake or a little. Well, I guess you're a little bit older too. You go back to when you were a kid, when it was Elway and the Broncos every year. The NFC Championship forever was the de facto Super Bowl.
Right.
Because if the Niners and Cowboys in the early Niners,
I'll tell you the
winner of that was going to win it all.
The one that was brutal was the Stan Humphries, Natron Means Chargers team.
Yeah. That 94 Niners team was
That 94
loaded.
Niners team blew them out.
They scored the first play, didn't they? Wasn't it the first play an 80-yard touchdown to Rice?
It was ugly, man. Brutal.
Yeah. Any of those Broncos ones. The Giants completely dismembered them in 86. The Redskins with Doug Williams blew them out, didn't they?
Yeah.
Weren't they down 10-0 and then they won like 50,
Doug Williams
51-10 or something?
He threw for 200 yards in a quarter
Niners
or something.
killed them one of those years, 89, I think.
It's the Washington football team, Derek.
Oh, sorry. Old habits die hard for me when it comes to that. I've always had trouble saying Washington football team. By the way, fun factoid before we get to the rest of quick hits. With Cincinnati now reaching the AFC Championship game, 26 different NFL franchises have made a conference championship game since the Dallas Cowboys last played in one.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Can you name the 5 who haven't besides the Cowboys? One of them's easy. Texans.
Detroit Lions.
Yep.
The Houston Texans. Hang on. I know that
we just mentioned one of them. Who you scolded me for. Washington.
Oh, the Washington football. Okay, so I'm missing how many?
2 more.
To play in a conference championship since
Yeah.
AFC or NFC?
Both AFC. One of them's kind of a punchline who has had some recent success where they haven't been that bad, but they're known as one of the worst franchises in football. AFC.
The Browns?
Yeah.
And then the NFC, you said?
No, the other one's AFC. This one's going to be harder to get, but they're a team that is always in the middle.
Chargers.
No.
When were they in the AFC title game?
07 against the Patriots.
Okay.
Rivers and the Chargers were in, yeah.
Always in the middle, you said. How long has it been since this team played in the AFC title game?
I think they did it. They did it in the 90s, I want to say. Maybe early 90s. They had a great run in the 80s and 90s, but fell short.
Have they won a Super Bowl?
Yes, just one.
Ooh, so that rules out the Broncos.
Yeah. Well, the Broncos have played in a couple of Super Bowls since the Dallas, and 95 is a long time.
Okay, since Dallas.
Since 1995, they have not played in a conference championship game.
And you said it's a
AFC team. You're going to be so mad at yourself.
Hold on. Which division?
The East.
Oh, wow. Miami?
Yeah, the Dolphins. The other team that haven't. Yeah, 92 I think was the last time. They
That's
lost.
probably
They
right.
lost to the Bills. One of the
after
the Bills
Marino, you're right.
four-peat years.
They've been chasing it ever since.
I think they were in the AFC Championship game, and that was the last one that they were in. More quick hits because we don't want just Jake doing this for the rest of the show. Congrats to Kansas State's. Is it Ioka Lee?
I believe that's right.
61 points.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Wouldn't you be so mad at yourself though because you were? She missed 2 free throws. She shot 23 of 30, so there's not much more that you could do. But you're that close to just setting the all-time record. It'd be cool to say.
What's the all-time record?
61. She tied it.
Okay, gotcha.
But you're so close to having that all by yourself.
61 points in a women's college basketball game.
Yeah, and their opponent scored 65. Pretty impressive. So congratulations to that. I saw that was part of the pop quiz today where you mentioned Manhattan, Kansas. Finally, quick hits-wise, and this is what people have been waiting for. 3 monkeys escaped from a truck carrying 100 monkeys, so 3%.
Okay.
Did the math in my head. 3% of the monkeys escaped on a highway in Pennsylvania on Friday. It's unclear whether any of the monkeys who didn't escape were harmed. They were apparently on their way to a research lab. So they decided, hey, this ain't happening. I don't know how they got out of the truck, but they ended up flipping it over or something like that. There was a report late on Saturday that all 3 monkeys had been accounted for and been euthanized. Turns out that 1 monkey may still be on the loose. There have been disputing reports.
There were gunshots.
Could be in PA or Ohio.
They shot and killed them. 2 of them.
Oh, they didn't give them the sleeping injection?
No,
or
they.
Now, did they
full
have
gunshots?
And some people, if you're longtime listeners of the show, you may remember a case in 2012 where a monkey and a wolf escaped
right.
from an Ohio farm.
That's right.
And
the monkey had the clap, right?
We spent 4 whole hours that day on talking about the monkey and the wolf's escape. And unfortunately, many of the animals were stricken with STDs.
That is right.
We don't know why that was the case, but that was the case.
That was a wild farm they were living on.
Yes, I don't know if that was the
lot
case
of drugs.
with these monkeys.
Yeah, they were young. One of the monkeys, there was a picture of him in a tree, and it just said, "Don't be a hero."
Yeah, it said, "Do not approach any of the monkeys."
Right.
Yes, they can be very aggressive. So we'll keep you up to date. Maybe next week's show we'll have a resolution to this.
I feel
and
bad because
hopefully-
it's
hopefully
cold
the
out,
monkeys
right?
aren't dead. Just shoot them like that.
Yeah, they did.
Couldn't they just take them to the lab and be like, "Hey, no harm, no foul"?
I
Or are they compromised once they get in?
I think they're probably better off just dying than going to the lab.
You know what they did? Inject them with that microchip. Heard about it. My uncle told me about it on Facebook. That's why
It's terrible.
They
what
don't
do,
want
with
that information
Soap
to
and
get out there.
shampoos. No thanks.
Yeah,
Poor guys.
But they have a lot of laws in place now for that, right? Where animal cruelty, you can't. It's not like it's the 1920s anymore.
I hope you're right.
No, I don't think that they let you do really harmful, terrible stuff to animals. I hope. Maybe I'm being naive. I would hope in 2022 that we're not, because I'm like you. I'm an animal lover.
I think
just
you're
like
being
you are.
naive.
Bite or bull bleep when we come back. It took a dark turn on the
By
show.
the way, no bulls are harmed for bite or bull beat.
That's true, yes.
Bite or bull Schultz.
We're not PETA people, but we do like to ethically treat animals without being completely out of our gourd. It's Corey and Schultz, back to tie a bow on it next, episode 70 here on ISC. Stop texting right before. It's unprofessional.
Calling it time. Oh, no! It's good.
This one is caught.
There you go.
Wow, Dawson makes a great catch.
Spin, win, 3, bury it for Leland Walker.
Tie the game they do with the dunk by Malik Edmonds. What a play.
Oh, my goodness.
I feel a little momentum starting to fall Lynn's way.
That into the end. Wrestler! Wrestler! Whoa!
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to more.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz, where you may not realize it, but this is actually the third time that we've taken out of this segment due to some sort of a glitch, right, Derek? Why are you pointing?
I just wanted to make sure that I got a better point in that time than the previous two.
Well, you still
I felt strongly about that.
You still
one.
bit your lower lip, which looks ridiculous.
No, I don't think I did that. I
you did.
I just pointed.
No, you definitely.
No one's even looking.
You did. Yeah, you look ridiculous when you do that.
No, it's assertive.
Can you zoom all the way in on Derek? Do we have a rack zoom? They probably.
Well, it's
can't
probably this cam right here.
Okay,
yeah, this is the
if they zoom in on you, can you do the point so you can?
Got a little.
You can see how you're biting your lip. You look ridiculous.
I don't think I'm biting my lip at all. If I am, I'm doing it subconsciously because I don't think I'm doing that at all. I don't think that's happening.
Okay, well,
you ready for bite or bold bleep?
Sure.
Bite or bold bleep. Here's what we do. I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it's bold bleep. You ready for statement one?
Yep. Bull Schultz. Yep.
I haven't even read it yet.
Okay.
The NFL overtime rules will be changed this offseason. Bite or bold bleep?
Bull Schultz. Not going to change it.
I think there will be a big push for it to change. Now
Let me ask you something. Did they affect Bill Belichick?
No.
Did they affect Tom Brady?
No.
Did they affect Bill Polian?
He formerly worked for Buffalo, so maybe.
Not going to change.
Kansas City was the one who brought it up for a change in the 2018
You're right, and it
offseason.
went nowhere, right?
It went nowhere. It got shot down. So I think it's funny how it's funny how the world works, where you giveth, you taketh away, and Kansas City got the benefit. Can you imagine if they lost another game on a coin flip? What those fans would be saying? They'd be real upset about that. I do think it'll change. The problem is this offseason.
Let me ask you this.
I don't know, but it will eventually change, so I guess I buy it.
This time 2 years ago or whatever it was, everybody was enthralled with Tony Romo. Has that ended?
What was weird to me was to hear, and this rarely happens on a broadcast, Nance had to kind of reel him in there at the end because Romo was talking about it like the game was over after the Buffalo touchdown. And I think even everybody at home, look, 13 seconds, right? I'm not saying that it wasn't a shock, but if there's one quarterback in the league that you wouldn't doubt in that situation,
especially when you line up 20 yards off the ball.
Yeah, it's Mahomes. And he kept talking about it like that was it. And I even heard, did you catch this? I thought I heard Nance tell him easy, like on the air, where Romo's saying something. He's like, whoa, easy now. 13 seconds left.
Well, he just, oh my gosh, everything's calm down.
I love that he's into it. I like.
It's cool,
I don't like being a robot.
For $18 million, come on.
I think the problem that you had with Sims was that he was so bland.
Right.
And at least Romo is energetic. But yeah, I think there was a feeling.
You know who's really good?
This is the best that ever did it, and now you're like, Romo's okay.
Aikman's really good.
Aikman's good too. But even Aikman, I don't think showed all of the emotion that you should show. I want a little bit more emotion than that. Statement 2, Aaron Rodgers will never start another Super Bowl. Buy it or bold bleep?
Buy it. I think at this point.
Incredible?
Huh?
Isn't it incredible how.
I mean, he's a great player, but at this point, I think he's just. There's a level of arrogance about him that I think has just rubbed people the wrong way. And
yeah, he's become. It's weird to not like the Packers because the Packers are always kind of that franchise where you're like, oh, I love them. And good fans. I can't believe it's been 11 years. He's been the best quarterback in the league for just about all of that time.
He's a great player.
And this is why I hate doing quarterback wins and losses, but I do find it funny that, Peyton Manning's kind of the poster child for playoff failures. Peyton Manning's been to 4 times as many Super Bowls as Aaron Rodgers has. Right. That Niners team, that's a great story. That Niners team had no business beating that Packers team. None.
Right. You're right.
And they lost to a 9-win Giants team in 2011 at home. It is what it is. I don't like it's a team game, right? And there are other things that have failed around Aaron Rodgers during that time. I'm not saying that it's all on him, but this is why you heap it all on one guy and you don't on the other. He's pretty much been able to dodge a lot of criticism on the field. Now, the off-field criticism is certainly
the dodge thing there again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I used to box. And that was how I kind of learned the quick moves. I haven't boxed in a while.
Where or when did you box?
Well, it was after I wrestled, where I was like, I need something to scratch. I needed that adrenaline rush again. I needed something to scratch that itch.
Where did you box?
In Fairfield.
Like at the Fairfield Boys
Club?
No,
they had a boxing. I don't think it exists anymore, but it was in like a strip mall.
Did you box
like
anyone?
A boxing place. Just sparring. I didn't actually do like a real bout. I wasn't ready to do that, even though my coaches thought that the talent was there to eventually get there.
Who were you boxing?
Lightweight division.
Shocker. Who were you boxing against?
Mostly my instructors and then other people that were in the 90-minute class.
Okay.
So other members.
Were they
But
of age?
you had the headgear and gloves, and we weren't going too hard. I broke somebody's nose, but outside of that, we weren't going too hard.
You broke someone's nose?
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
yourself? Did you suffer any injuries?
No, you have to hit me to for that to happen.
When you broke the guy's nose, or gal, were you biting your lip?
If you think it's funny, you can step into the ring with me anytime you want.
Oh,
If you think it's real funny,
you got no reach on me.
and then we'll see who's laughing at the end of that. Actually, I wouldn't be laughing. You're laying there in your own blood. That's not funny to me. I'd prove a point, I guess, but I don't think it'd be funny. Statement 3.
That'd be bad for my Achilles.
Buy it or bull bleep. Might be bad for your face.
Yeah.
IU will miss the NCAA tournament. Buy it or bull
Ah,
bleep.
bull Schultz, they're in. 9 seed at the worst, could still be a 6.
They're not. You know what their non-conference strength of schedule is?
No.
Wait, I wrote it. I put it in the notes here somewhere. Their non-conference strength of schedule for Indiana is 325. And
Well,
Rake,
good.
Rake knows this because IUPUI is near the bottom. How many teams in Division I now? 335? 333? Wait, 350? 358. God, are there that many now? I remember when they were like 317 or something. 358. So out of 358 teams, Indiana's non-conference strength of schedule, 325.
Not good.
That's going to be tough. And they've only played 7 quad 1, quad 2 games. But that Michigan win, I think Michigan's going to take off here, so that'll age better. But to get beaten like that, I mean, they got
blown out.
Yeah, 1.25 PPP in that game. That just, for as good as they are
PPP.
defensively, that can't happen. Points per possession.
Okay.
So you're giving a 1.25 PPP. It's really hard to win like that. That means the other team's dunking on you thoroughly. So I do think Indiana is going to make it, but I just hate that it's going to be by the skin of their teeth.
PPP.
You want to borrow that for your radio show?
No, it's okay. I'm doing okay.
You should try to kind of reinvent yourself here a little bit because they fired us for a reason. So it would be helpful for you. I'm trying to help you in your
not once
second radio life.
You referenced not once but twice today that apparently you were listening to the show this morning.
There's no other option in the morning. So, it's the only one. So I'm kind of stuck, yeah. Well, somebody listen to like Bloomberg News or something. I don't know.
That's what replaced us, right?
Yeah.
It's doing well.
Mm-hmm. Well, first it was a top 40 hit station that lasted about 6 weeks.
Was
remember?
it really?
Kiss FM. You remember we got in the meeting? They had that big pink banner. Kiss FM. This is the Indy's new home for hits.
Okay.
They took us off the FM for that.
We got 86 by
Katy
Taylor
Perry.
Swift. Yeah.
Thanks to all of our great sponsors, Chateau Kitchens, Bailey and Wood Financial Group, WGU Indiana, Love Heating and Cooling. We will be back next week with episode 71.
That's right.
We're starting to kind of struggle with players, I feel like. On
Bunch of
jerseys.
linemen, Derek. We're making the fat lineman run.
A lot of linemen. When we get in the 80s, it'll be real fun because then you start talking receivers and stuff like that. Thanks to the Gregs for pitching in today. Jordan was out sick, so Greg Mash and Greg Rakestraw for running the ones and twos for us. No, you're the one getting everybody sick, Mr. COVID over here. For Jay Query, I'm Derek Schultz. We'll see you next time on Query and Schultz. Oh, wait, I got a point. ISC Sports Network.
Looks ridiculous.
Double point at the end.
Looks ridiculous.
McCulling in time. Oh, no! It's good.
This one is good.
There you go.
Wow, Dawson makes a great catch.
Spin, win, 3, bury it for Leland Walker.
Tie the game they do with the dunk by Malik Edmonds. What a play.
Oh, my goodness.
I
feel a little momentum starting to fall Ellen's way.
That is
Wrestler!
Wrestler!
Whoa! Throw it up for Tillman.
Whoa. My goodness.
122-6-0 for Penn.
What a swim. Six of them.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.